She's so wrapped up in identity, and she had no idea who she was.
Well, now we understand why she always makes Whoopi get the coffee.
Yeah.
One thing, and I would have even actually not give her any, is she said, well, like, I guess that's just what like they did back then.
Yeah.
She should have followed that up with saying something along the lines of, and I understand that that's a departure from the way I've talked about this before.
They peak, new episodes of The View when she tries to pull the race card.
Yes.
And then she's like, America is racist. And then they're like, yeah, they might be racist, but they're not like slave owner such like somebody that we... That's so true. Yeah.
The ongoing drama surrounding The View is more than a passing headline. It's a mirror reflecting broader cultural tensions, conversations about identity, responsibility, and the boundaries of free speech. The show's mix of strong personalities has always been a selling point, but now those same qualities have brought a wave of controversies it seems unprepared to handle. From Sunny Hostin's genealogy bombshell to high-stakes legal rumors, each episode feels like another turn in an unfolding saga. For fans who have tuned in daily for years, this might be the biggest challenge the show has ever faced. Some see it as a wake-up call, a moment to consider whether talk shows should pivot from sensational face-offs to more reflective, balanced conversations. Others believe it's just another cycle in the constantly changing media landscape, and The View will inevitably bounce back as it has many times before. In the end, the question remains, is all of this turmoil a crucial turning point for a long-running program, or just another spark in an industry that thrives on scandals? The real test will be how these hosts, and the show's producers, respond to the intense scrutiny. Will they lean into the controversies in search of higher ratings, or choose to address them head-on with candor and empathy? Viewers will certainly be watching. And if recent developments are any indication, this roller coaster is far from reaching its final loop. No one knows exactly where The View goes from here, but the stage is set for more surprises. In a media environment that changes by the second, all it takes is one unexpected twist to shift public opinion yet again. Whether this is the end of an iconic talk show or the start of a reinvention, one thing is for sure: the story isn't over. And when that next twist comes, everyone will be ready to talk about it. What happens when a daytime talk show, famous for lively debates and bold opinions, faces its biggest firestorm yet? Recently, The View has found itself at the center of swirling rumors, unexpected ancestry findings, and even legal threats that could topple its longtime reign on television. For viewers at home, it's been a whirlwind of revelations and potential implosions. Some wonder if we're witnessing the end of an era. Others believe this storm might reshape the show entirely. One thing is clear: everyone is talking about The View, and the drama seems to grow by the minute.
But she's set to perform at the upcoming inauguration. She said in a statement that she's doing it because the country must come together in the spirit of unity and look to the future. And lots of her fans aren't thrilled about it, but lots of her fans are. So let's put this in perspective here.
At the heart of the turmoil is co-host Sunny Hostin, an outspoken advocate for social causes. Her persona has always been that of a passionate commentator who calls out what she sees as injustice. Then came news about her own lineage. Recent research exposed her family's ties to forced labor in past generations. For many fans, this revelation felt like a sudden jolt. How could someone so vocal about accountability and fairness have overlooked this chapter of her own background? Predictably, reactions online were fierce. While some defended Sunny, arguing that no one should be judged by events from centuries ago, others labeled her a hypocrite. They pointed to moments on The View when she criticized public figures for failing to acknowledge or atone for historical wrongdoing. For critics, this discovery landed like a hammer, insisting it highlighted a contradiction in her stance. Yet Sunny's response was equally surprising. Rather than diving headfirst into a discussion, she waved it off as a trivial footnote, calling it just a fact of life. That curt dismissal fueled the controversy further, drawing even more scrutiny from watchers and observers alike. Sunny might have brushed off questions surrounding her ancestry, but conservative late-night host Greg Gutfeld had no intention of letting the story fade quietly. Known for his sharp wit and edgy commentary, he unleashed a pointed takedown that quickly spread across social media. He poked fun not just at Sunny's unexpected background, but also at what he framed as her crumbling moral high ground. The segment was classic Gutfeld, sarcastic, relentless, and sprinkled with comedic jabs that sparked a barrage of retweets and memes. His angle extended beyond sheer humor, too. He suggested that this situation revealed the perils of performative activism, insisting that people who champion certain causes often overlook the complexities in their own lives. The roast resonated with those eager to see a high-profile media figure face the same level of scrutiny she had placed on others. Before long, clips of Gutfeld's monologue were trending on TikTok, Twitter, and beyond, turning what might have been a quick blip into a cultural flashpoint.
We want to cancel people's livelihoods because we don't like their politics. And whether it was the Dixie Chicks for criticizing George Bush, didn't agree with it then, and Carrie Underwood, if you have a problem, you register your complaint by not downloading her songs and not going to her shows. Right. But I also think from a business standpoint, it's not a bad decision for Carrie Underwood. 75 million people voted for Trump. Artists tend to skew left-leaning, so she's overnight going to become an icon of MAGA and the American right. She's probably going to make a lot of money off of it.
Back at The View, the atmosphere reportedly changed almost overnight. A show that prided itself on tackling difficult topics head-on suddenly seemed hesitant. Viewers noticed that whenever Sunny's ancestry controversy came up, the once spirited conversation turned uncomfortably quiet. Even Whoopi Goldberg, who's known for her quick comebacks, seemed unusually cautious about steering the discussion. Producers, too, were said to be on edge about how much to address on air. There's a fine line between acknowledging a headline-grabbing topic and creating more fodder for critics, and The View was struggling to find that balance. Some fans praised the show for handling the story delicately, while others accused it of tiptoeing around a serious issue. The tension only seemed to reinforce the idea that this wasn't a one-day scandal. It was an ongoing crisis that risked damaging the show's credibility if not handled properly. Meanwhile, the online world was having a field day with the entire situation. Clips from The View spliced alongside Gutfeld's roast created an endless loop of comedic contrast. Overnight, hashtags referencing Sunny's ancestry, hypocrisy debates, and comedic takedowns began popping up. On TikTok, short videos mocked the stark difference between Sunny's usual fiery stance and her reluctant admission regarding her family background. On Twitter, supporters argued that people shouldn't be responsible for ancestral deeds, while critics insisted that her track record demanded a deeper acknowledgement or apology. This frenzy wasn't confined to one platform. Instagram pages, dedicated to daytime television drama, reposted memes, fueling the conversation further. Some pointed out that controversies on The View are nothing new, but rarely had a co-host been called out in such a personal, genealogical way. The mixture of humor, shock, and debate kept the story in the spotlight, ensuring that people who had never even watched The View were now intrigued.
Sunny's dumb. Certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and it's nothing.
Just go for it. Yeah.
Citizen that has a policy. I mean, I'm not saying that Joe Rogan should be removed from Spotify. He's got 11 million listeners. He's got $100 million, contract as of 2020. But I do think as the podcast platform, you have to have some sort of guidelines. How about a disclaimer on his podcast that says, this is missing.
As if the scandal needed another twist, former co-host Rosie O'Donnell entered the fray. Having been part of several controversial show moments in the past, she was no stranger to media dust-ups. This time, though, her observations carried a reflective tone. Rosie argued that identity politics often simplifies issues that are far more complicated. She lamented that Sunny had missed a prime chance to spark a thoughtful dialogue about historical burdens and personal responsibility. Rosie's comment struck a chord. Many who have grown tired of sensationalist media felt that the show lost a rare opportunity to educate viewers, or at least open the door to a nuanced discussion. Instead, many believed that The View chose to pivot away from introspection, focusing on damage control rather than genuine conversation. Rosie's stance added to the mounting pressure around Sunny to respond more transparently, something that, at least so far, hasn't fully happened. While social media debated moral responsibility, another storm brewed in the form of looming lawsuits. Rumors circulated online that certain celebrities were eyeing legal action against The View for alleged defamatory remarks. One recurring rumor involved country music star Carrie Underwood, who was linked to claims about her participation in a high-profile event. Although some of these rumors were quickly debunked, their mere existence showed how the show had become a magnet for controversy. Then came the most jaw-dropping rumor. A viral snippet claimed that a major public figure had secured a $900 million defamation win against The View. Despite no credible evidence supporting this figure, the story spread like wildfire, suggesting that the show was bleeding massive sums to settle legal battles. Fact-checkers eventually stepped in and clarified that these claims were unfounded, but by then, the damage had been done. The rumor had left many casual observers with the impression that The View was facing crushing legal liabilities,
controversy alive. But while social media had its fun, another voice entered the conversation.
Yes, there's nothing worse than to find out you're a white woman.
She's so disappointed.
It's really disappointing.
Her mother was white.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
History and finds out that this is fantastic. She is descended from slaveholders. She's descended from slaveholders, and she's been apparently getting a lot of mail about her call for reparations because it turns out she's going to be paying them and not actually receiving.
Former View co-host Rosie O'Donnell added her perspective.
It didn't help that soon after, news broke about a real lawsuit involving Caroline Levitt. She accused Joy Behar of making on-air statements that crossed legal boundaries, prompting a defamation case. In a surprising turn, Joy stepped away from the show temporarily. This move sent shockwaves through the show's fan base. Joy had long been one of the most recognizable faces on The View, and her sudden absence fueled speculation about internal turmoil. For The View, this was yet another reminder of the precariousness of modern media. When your hosts freely speak their minds about public figures, the line between free expression and possible legal repercussions can become blurry. Viewers, meanwhile, were left wondering if The View was simply seeing a string of unlucky events, or if the show's outspoken format had finally caught up with it. While The View seemed to be spinning in circles, Greg Gutfeld capitalized on the spotlight. His takedowns of daytime television and its hosts found new audiences who felt alienated by what they saw as mainstream media's predictability. Many sigh. Viewers looking for fresh voices resonated with his willingness to call out perceived double standards. In turn, this bolstered Gutfeld's presence in late-night commentary circles, proving that controversy can be a powerful catapult for a media personality's reach. His critique of Sunny wasn't the end either. He broadened his scope to question the show's format, suggesting it contributed more to division than to genuine dialogue. For some, that stance felt refreshing. For others, it felt opportunistic. Regardless, Gutfeld's online following grew, indicating that some segment of the public was drawn to his unfiltered and somewhat irreverent takes.
In her defense, everyone has ancestors that did unspeakably horrible things. It's just that not everyone's ancestors have records tied to their DNA about it. Worried for Sunny Hostin's progeny in the future that do a DNA test and find out that they were related to a cast member of The View. And they're like, oh, it all makes so much sense now. Why I'm so stupid and fat.